Thank you for watching our Dr. Martin Luther King Legacy Series. I want to thank our illustrious mayor for making this possible by providing the funds for this informational series.
And I want to thank you, Councilwoman Coleman, for your visionary leadership in helping to put these 5 programs together to elevate and educate our community around the impact of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in our society and community.
And so I say to the listening audience out there, stay tuned and view the entire 5 series.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, because I've been to the mountaintop, all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Hi, I'm Carolyn R. Coleman, Councilwoman here in District 10. And here we are at another segment of our Dr. King Legacy Series. We are fortunate enough to have with us Mr. Roosevelt Teddy Brown. He came from a family of 7, 4 girls and 3 boys. When you hear the words basketball championships, McKinley High School for 22 years, I say to you the name Roosevelt Teddy Brown should resonate in your spirit. Thank you, Coach Brown, for being here this evening as a part of our Dr. King Legacy Series. And just to begin this series here, I'm going to just ask for let's talk about some background, your background, the man of the hour. Just give us something here on you, who you are.
Well, I'm a natural Baton Rougean. I've had a very successful life in what I love to do, coach basketball, and I've had success with that. And I've had a lot of support from my people who know me, my family. My brother was my idol because he was a basketball player.
Wow.
And my kids have been successful, and I have a lot to be proud of because these things don't come automatically. It comes through hard work and dedication. And I've lived most of my life working hard and expecting good results from what I achieved.
Wow, wow. That right there is a lot. So, and on your journey, I know that there has to be someone in addition to those that you've named. That's your platform right there. And once you got into this workforce here and into this basketball, there had to be someone who kind of took you under their wing and kind of brought you along. And who would that someone be? And then talk to me about that person.
Well, other than my older brother, who was also a basketball player, and he introduced me to it. And along the way, I had an excellent coach, high school coach. Stanley Morris was much ahead of his time as far as basketball knowledge is concerned. As far as the fundamentals are concerned, the dedication to the game, and how you would do it and you play ball and you would enjoy playing basketball. So that was one of the great things in my life. And also my junior high school coach, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Simmons introduced the basketball to me also, and from there, things began to fall in place because every day was a basketball day as far as I was concerned. And we played year-round, and we challenged each other, and I was able to go on through high school And I was fortunate enough to overcome some obstacles to become a college basketball player, which at one time I thought would never happen.
Yes.
But through the work of the good Lord and hard work, I was able to achieve that. I played 4 years of college basketball, excuse me, at Southern University, which at one time I thought would never happen, but it did, with the pushing and dedication from my family and the other persons who knew me well and knew how much I dedicated myself to basketball. This and that. I was successful in achieving some things there. Now also, when I moved up to the high school ranks, I would be remiss if I did not give Coach Stewart
Yes.
what's due him, because he laid the foundation at McKinley High School, and all the thing I had to do was to follow through on it.
Wow.
And I worked, practice until we were able to do that. And I also had some outstanding basketball players who became basketball players and men and family and what have you. This and that. I would give them some credit too, because you can coach all you want to, unless you got some ball players who are dedicated to trying to achieve, you can't be successful.
So what you've just described is what they talk about when they say the village, and your village was truly a strong one that allowed you to just spring forward and do all the great things that you were able to do. In 1981, you had a state championship there. Talk a little bit about that. And in 1990, your state championship.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that and some of your best memories at the McKinley High School.
Well, it goes back to how much you dedicate yourself to trying to achieve things. And basketball was my love, so I worked and worked and worked. We had practice at unusual times. Everybody didn't think it was the right thing to do, but we got success out of it. And in 1981, we were fortunate enough to win the state championship, and that was a glory thing, because we had worked and worked, and we figured it was about that time. And some of the ball players that we had at that time over there, they were successful. They turned out to be successful individuals and also successful men. Now, to name them this net.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
To name those guys as such, well, I had some like, I'd say Ethan Martin. Ethan Martin was great. He went on to LSU and excelled there. And I had some more guys like Freddie Foster and just any number of guys, without singling them out and not giving them credit for what they do as such. They did an outstanding job, and we felt at that time, in 81, it was our time.
Yes, yes.
Our times, and we were able to achieve that, along with the fans that you got at McKinley High School. They were great fans. They would buy tickets for games, this and that. I'd say they'd buy the tickets for a Friday game. They'd buy the tickets on a Wednesday. Yeah, to make sure they had their seat, and they were there to cheer us on as such. And that was a great thing. In 91, 93, I'm sorry, we won it again. We kept knocking on the door there and the ball players were really, really dedicated to that. Guys like Marvin Brady, who played this and that, it was great athlete, and whatever you ask, it wasn't enough for him. He'll do more than that as such. And you have some more guys like I had a Tommy Green who went on to be coach at Southern, and then I had a Larry Marshall who went on to play football, this and that. And it had any number of guys, this and that, who came through the program. They were dedicated to it. They loved it. And I used to have a thing I'd say all the time, such, hey, if you don't love the game, this and that, you're in the wrong place.
Yes.
You're in the wrong place. And you have to work for it, this and that. And you got to be the kind of guy, this and that, I trust. I got to trust you to go home and get your lesson and come to school on time, dress properly like you're supposed to, this and that. All these things was a part of things that I taught that I had been taught as a player myself.
Wow, wow. Talk to me about Dr. Martin Luther King. You see, when I hear you and I think of him, I see some alignment there. Talk to me about the impact maybe of Dr. King on your life, or during the time when you were maybe coaching, or during that time when they were marching, or he was assassinated, or just anything that you can refer to regarding Dr. King.
One of a kind. One of a kind. Dedicated his life to save other people. It's such that every time you hear his voice, it motivates you. And the thing that he made and the thing that he dedicated his life to is for his family and people all over the world as such. If you take your time and listen to what he says, you'll get a lot out of that.
Yes.
And he was the kind. It's a sorrow that life had to leave this world in that manner, this and that. But even today, he lives on.
Yes, yes. Good point there. Good point. Yes. And when he died, where were you? Where were you when he passed? Were you, I know you were here in Baton Rouge. What school?
I think I was at McKinley at that time.
At McKinley High.
At McKinley at that time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that particular day there, and with those students there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yes.
It was a sorry day, and most persons, especially our own people, we couldn't understand why. We couldn't understand why. But as I said before, this and that, his life and his legacy still lives on.
Still lives on.
And
Still lives on.
And the thing that bothers me about it too is that some of our young people, they need to sit down and listen at it. Listen to what he said. And say follow that line as such, because he made some sacrifices that most people wouldn't do. But he did it anyway for everybody.
And you know, that aligns with what you've done for those basketball players. They could not have done what they have done without your leadership, without the legacy that you've left with many, many of them. And what they did was, and I know, they respected you first as a gentleman. They respected that and understood that you were there for their good and was willing to just listen and learn. And so that you're to be commended for that, Coach. And so truly a legacy, just as Dr. King's legacy, and it lives on, so will your legacy live on for sure. And so we are just fortunate enough to just have you here today to share with us. And then I think about you growing up on Gus Young. You grew up on Gus Young, and then you went to the bottom and taught.
Yeah.
And so you had the best of both worlds, two of the three worlds that we were a part of for sure, unless you went to where you had to pay tuition. So back then we had a choice, McKinley Capital or Scotlandville High.
Yeah, right.
And so you had the best of both worlds. Talk to me about coming up in Gus Young and being over there, and then, yes.
It was quite interesting that you mentioned that, because most of your training and stuff that we had in the area that we lived at in the park and such, thanks to the good Lord, and also that it was a neighborhood thing. You know, everybody in the neighborhood knew everybody, and if they called your hand about doing something they thought was wrong and such, hey, you abided by it.
Yes.
And that was a very thing. And then, like I said before, going to Capitol this and that, and thank God for Mr. Keel this and that. He was special. He was special. He made everybody feel like they were somebody.
Yes.
And this thing went on, and I was able to gain some of it and live through it. And my parents were very, very strict about certain things, where you go, what you do, and when you're going to get back, and what time you need to get back. And all of these things was very, very important. And the teachers and things, this and that, they took it sincerely about it.
Yes.
And if they told you to do something, this and that, well, there was no argument about it. You get to it, and that's what you're supposed to do. And I took those things, this and that, through my church, through my family, my mother and father, my sisters and brothers, this and that, and I was able to take that same thing and to the kids that I worked with, this and that. My thing about that, if I couldn't trust you, what I'm going to do?
And when you say that, trust them to do what? Talk to me. Tell me about trust them to...
Do the correct thing. Behave. Be respectful. And when you're asked to do something, this and that, well, if it's in your range, you do it. And these are the things that I'm talking about.
And you talked about going to school, showing up to school, doing your homework, all of that.
Yeah, all of that.
All of that. No question about it.
No.
Yes, that was a part of what had to be in order to be in your...
Well, everybody on 39th Street where we lived at just now, that was not a question to be
Yes, indeed.
asked or
Not
answered.
an option.
You got to go.
Yes.
You got to go. If you didn't go to school, something was wrong with that. But those were the things that my parents taught that, and it made sure that we went to school like we were supposed to. The people in the neighborhood, they knew you, and like I said before, if they tell you something, this and that, you mind what they say, and you're going to behave like they say.
And I am sure that there were some places back then where you were not able to go. You know, the purpose for this is to take a look at where we were, where we are, and where we need to go. And so, you know, when we're talking about you were able to go to McKinley and teach, and there may have been some other schools that you may not have been able to if it wasn't integrated at that time.
Yes.
Several. So talk to me about being in that. Talk to me about that vein there of life.
You had most of this things like that. It kind of starts at home, and then having to go to a school that's not integrated, this and that, they laid it down to you just like it is. There's no question about it. And if you had a question, you could ask, but now you stay in your position.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Yes.
and even at the schools as such, if a teacher spoke to you as such, well, you respond to that in a manner that you're supposed to. You don't talk back like you're grown.
Yes.
And these are the things that we're missing today as such. Some of the things that's happening today as such, they shouldn't happen that way as such. These things should be learned at home.
That's correct.
You learn at home. That's embarrassing to your parents when you go out and be disrespectful to an adult, this and that, and it comes back to home to you. That's not very good.
Not at all.
So those are some of the things that we have to do, and your schooling is most important. Most important, isn't it? And you got to learn these things at home.
And McKinley was definitely noted for that academic and for that basketball. It was all of that.
Sure.
Yeah, the big blue machine for sure. And so, it was definitely known for that. And then, as you said, you know, before integration, school was like home.
Yep.
The same thing they was teaching at home, you got that at school.
Right.
And so that was one of the plus for being in a school before integration. Now, the books may have been second-handed and all of these other things, but what it did cause you to be creative.
Yeah.
You better think about what that line said that may have been drawn through or cut out the page or whatever of that nature there.
That's right.
So it wasn't all bad, in my opinion. Not at all. Wasn't all bad. And then when we think about Dr. King and his legacy, and as you alluded to, what he stood for, and it was for everybody. His mindset was the love and respect and all for everyone. And so with that being said, what a better way than to bring up children in that same mindset. And then whatever you plant on this end, you expect to harvest on the other end. Yes, if you plant in for good boys, you're going to expect real men.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with the young ladies there. You're going to expect that. As we look today, and we've seen where we've been, we know where we are now. Life is, as you said, good life. Good life. And so from this standpoint, where do you see some areas of concern or where we need to get to, where we just haven't quite made it there yet? And what is it that we need to do, in your opinion, what we need to do to get there?
Well, probably the first thing we have to do is we need to start teaching kids at home training, what it means. Don't wait until they get to be 13 years old, and now you're going to try to break them in. You can't do that then. You got to start early with them. You got to put them in activities that they can understand and
basketball,
they can buy.
Yes, good basketball. Yes.
Well, I can tell you that about the basketball thing, because first of all, I'm telling you, if I couldn't trust him to go home and be respectful in his neighborhood and behave his parents and go by what his parents teach him and do, well, I can't deal with it.
Yes.
Because I can't trust him.
Yes.
I can't trust him. See, I got to watch him all the time? No, I don't have to watch him all the time now. If he want to be with you and do the things that he or she's supposed to do and such, they got to start at an early age and such. And we're not doing that. And all this stuff about, the criminal things and stuff, that's not good. That's not good. First of all, you're gonna mess your life up before you get started. Before you even get started, you're gonna be at a disadvantage, because now you started on a road that's no good.
Yes.
And these are the things that you got to preach. You got to go by it. You got to be involved in activity that's constructive, that's going to do you good in the long run, and help you become the person that your parents want you to be and the person that you want to be.
And when we think about, I was just sitting thinking, I said, what would Dr. King say? What do you think? What could be some things that he would be saying today at this point? We're talking about, we know what he stood for. Mm-hmm. We know how hard he worked.
Yeah.
We know what he went through to even try to make some things happen. And so I guess the question that rose in my mind was, what would Dr. King be saying today about some of the things that he's seeing going on?
The first thing probably would come to his mind is that, did I waste my time? Did I waste my time on things that should be learned, should be practiced, and the things that you go about to do to make a good person out of yourself? And the sacrifice that he made, let's hope it's not in vain.
There you go. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful right there. Not in vain.
Yeah.
And then, I think about that was his era. And then we've had others to grab the mantle and go. But I wonder if the mantle has been dropped, or if we just need to stick around, stay around, and see if others have grabbed it and going forward to finish. He said he had a dream to finish that dream that he had. Our leaders, our as you said, in the families, the family members. That's really, and you are correct, that's where a lot of it rests, in the families. We shouldn't have to look out here to look for our role model. Our role model ought to be in that house, in that family, right there. And so with all of that, being said, it just want to say to these leaders out here, to kind of examine themselves and see if they've picked that mantle up to finish what Dr. King started. And when he talked about he had a dream, a dream. And so we wonder if we're still dreaming, if we're in a nightmare. We just wonder where the people, where the world, where Baton Rouge, where are we now, and where are we going?
Yeah.
Where are we going? And that's the question there.
Yep. That's it.
And that's it. And so, you know, as you said, you've had some bumps.
Sure.
But bumps make you better.
Yeah.
Bumps make you better. And then good life there. You know, when we talk about, you know, the bumps and then the family there, and then you get to a point and you've had a lot of opportunities.
Yes.
A lot of opportunities and a lot of support. And that support is so important as we try to do anything.
Yes.
But when you said repetition, you know, and I'm just reminded of, you know, folks say, you know, practice makes perfect. Yep, if you practice perfect.
Right.
If you practice perfect. So repetition. Talk to me about repetition, not just to me, but to the listening audience. And it is my prayer that these youngsters are listening so that they can really glean from that which you're saying, and the parents of these children can really glean something from what you're saying, and about repetition.
Well, the repetition is especially the right thing to do. That's the correct thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Like they say, well, practice make perfect. Well, perfect practice make perfect.
That's it.
And you got to continue to do that now. If you, like I said, it's at the house. It's at the house, and when your parents teach you something, they got to continue to teach you that. Continue to teach you that, and you can't get a negative attitude because they keep telling you the same thing. They want that to soak in with you so that eventually they don't have to tell you that every day.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
they don't have to tell you that every day. This, that, but now you can prove to them that the repetition is doing good.
Yes.
When they don't have to tell you to do the same thing every day.
And they know what's best for
you.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I always say to my grandchildren, if you listen, you learn.
Yeah.
If you listen, you learn.
Right.
And that they know what's best for them. And yes, and then as we think about, you know, Dr. King's life, how do you celebrate it? You know, we always come up into February with this celebration. How do you, as a man with a legacy, how do you celebrate Dr. King?
Well, I celebrate it by, I get a big joy out of listening to his recording thing, and the March on Washington and all that. I celebrated that. And then sometimes you can go to some church ceremonies that they have in this net that it's tied into the things that Dr. King preached over and over and over again. And the funny thing about that thing, the teaching was not just for a certain race of people. It's for all of us. All of us. And if we do the things that we're supposed to do and practice the repetition, the good repetition, you can be successful. You can be successful. But now, if it goes in one ear and come out the other ear, that's no good. Mm-hmm. That's no good. Mm-hmm. Because if you have to be told the same thing every day as such, well, you got to know something is wrong with that. Something is wrong with that. Oh, they're not listening to what I'm saying. That's what that is. And the repetition is to perfect the things that we want you to learn, the youngsters to learn this and that, and they got to be able to think in such a manner this and that for Dr. King to make the things that he did and sacrifices he did for us to live on it, and we're not doing it, we're missing the boat. We're missing the boat. Because the repetition is for you to get hold to that, this and that, so they won't have to tell you every day. Make it a part of your life.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
Lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, Coach, do you see yourself still as a teacher?
Yes,
Once a teacher?
always a teacher.
That's it. That's
Always
what
a
they
teacher.
say.
That's right.
Always.
Yeah.
Always a teacher.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
And the funny thing about that, once you get into education and you're teaching, used to teaching youngsters like that, it's a part of you. It's part of you. And, you know, you might think, well, why I'm worried about that? I'm not teaching anymore. Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. It's a
Yes, you
part
are.
of you.
And then for you to sit here today and to come back in an area where you've served all of those years here, over here in South Baton Rouge, over here in where they call the bottom, the bottom, and you being who you are and how you've done, here it is, you've been at the bottom and now you at the top there.
Right.
And so you can definitely look out and see a lot that you have cultured and have made and have brought up and have created and all of that. And you are to be commended for that, for all of the time, the effort, that you've sowed into the lives of young people.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to say, Dr. King, he's smiling at and on you, because definitely the many things that he believed in, you've actualized it.
Yeah.
And then we say that we appreciate you.
Sure.
We appreciate you and all that you've done, and you're pressing on. And so we just want to just say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this Legacy series, and look forward to seeing you over here in District 10. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And so, there you have it. You've heard. And remember, repetition, that's the word. Family, discipline, all of that good stuff. And those are the words of Roosevelt Teddy Brown. That's Coach Teddy Brown. Thank you for tuning in.